Thanks for staying with us. Our guest today is a former spokesperson for the Nigerian Air Force, safety and counter-terrorism expert, and also workplace safety expert. Group Captain Sadeeq Shehu is live with us from our studio in Abuja. Earlier on, you were talking about the need to pay more attention to security, that it's been some sort of an add-on. But when you consider how much money that we earmark for security in Nigeria, perhaps you're saying we are not spending that much money to make it a big deal. But talk to us about how much time we've had looking at that attack that took place some 8 months ago. Remember that following that story, some relatives of the victims had to protest and ensure that the NRC doesn't resume operation until all of the abducted people were released and when there is a blueprint for an upgraded security infrastructure. Would you say we've had enough time for us to rethink the security engineering around the rail tracks in Nigeria?
Terrorism being an international scourge, there are emerging global best practices, and there are things that countries or communities that are besieged by terrorism, there are certain actions that they are encouraged to take. All these with the mindset that the international fight against terrorism will succeed. And one of those, recommended practices is for a community to show resilience. I can understand the demand by those people before they release their loved ones that the train should not start. But at the same time, what studies show is that it is good for a community to show resilience, to show the people that are perpetrating terrorism acts
who recommended that after the necessary law and taking of stock, then haste should be made returning the threat service. Because the default is that we are going to become hostage to terrorists. You can remember even the popularity of the threat service, especially from Kaduna to Abuja, because of the attack that bandits were doing along the route. So people moved to the train. So we abandoned the route, including, unfortunately, with security agencies that no longer follow the route at that time, and they moved to the train. So now again, if we say we're not going to start the train, that is the purpose, and that is what a terrorist wants, to make sure that he dictates how you live, he dictates how you walk, he dictates how you travel. So at the same time, while we are not, I did not recommend a rash action, but at the same time, the stopping of the train, and luckily the federal government has happened to that, should not take a long time, so that we are besieged by terrorists. They cannot allow us to travel, they cannot allow us to go and do our business. So, two ways of looking at it. Yes, the relatives have the right to see that maybe if the train starts, attention will be taken off the release of their loved ones. But I think the two can be pursued concurrently.
Indeed. And I understand what you're saying about the fact that we shouldn't allow the terrorists to dictate how we travel and how we go about our business. Let's quickly take a look at some of the measures that the federal government is implementing aftermath of the resumption of rail service operation on that corridor. So without NIN, you cannot get tickets. The Minister of Transportation is saying that security starts with ticketing, and that now you cannot buy a ticket unless you have a valid phone number and the national identification card. And as a foreigner, you also have to show a means of identification. How important is profiling the passenger, as a security measure? And do you think that we have a track record to maintain this practice?
Yes, the importance of profiling passengers is in the fact that studies of other train robberies or train attacks have shown there are 2 ways or 3 ways that somebody when attacking a train can do. First, you could see elements to passengers.
Okay, with making them to stop somewhere. We do not have the report of this last attack, and I hope we'll have it, but that is one possibility. So when you profile, somebody who wants to commit a crime will not like to come with his full identity and then, without disguise and then enter a train because because the trap. So in that respect, profiling passengers will at least eliminate the possibility that one of the train robbers or a couple or 3 of them will sneak in as passengers either to rescue the train, either to identify what security people. That is another issue. So that aspect of profiling, and I hope that Nigeria, because again, to be fair to the federal government, it's one thing for government to put necessary steps. It's another thing for the railway officials themselves to implement those steps. And it is also another thing for Nigeria. Nigerians by nature were very impatient people. A typical Nigerian believes if he's a big man, it translates into him not following a queue, not maybe presenting his ID card for verification. It is as good that it's only for small people. The big people will not do that. So the measures are there. We have to look, and I hope the Nigerian Railway Corporation and the Supervisory Ministry will put in monitoring mechanisms to ensure when you put laws and you make exceptions, whether you make it for ministers, whether you make it for lawmakers, then you are going to have a problem. Because with time going, the person who wants to enter into that train will understand, that there are ways that can evade that pressure. So it is something that takes the collaboration of everybody to make sure it's a good step, but the implementation is what we have to see whether it will go or not.
Implementation is key, Group Captain, and that also brings us to the kind of collaboration that we saw exist aftermath that attack on the Abuja-Kaduna Railway. You remember the former Minister of Transportation was talking about the delay in procuring the integrated security surveillance, a particular 3 billion naira security surveillance equipment that he said was killed by the Federal Executive Council. But on the contrary, the Kaduna State Governor was quoted to have said that there was sufficient intelligence on that attack and that relevant security agencies actually failed to neutralize, or rather to act on that information. He mentioned the fact that he wondered why operation was still on at night at a time when attack was, much in that part of the country. Talk to us about the need to encourage more collaboration amongst different agencies of government in order to, provide more security on these ways.
Well, the issue of collaboration between our security agencies is an issue that has been overflowed. But I think rather than taking drastic action to ensure, or to order, or to coerce security agencies to, to collaborate, we only come and talk and wring our hands. Who is the person, if the security agencies are not going to collaborate in a democracy, who is the person to make them to make them to cooperate? It is the political masters, ranging from Mr. President, ranging to the ministers that are responsible for different security agencies, ranging to lawmakers. So I am not really impressed by when our lawmakers or our members of the executive come and say that security agencies are not cooperating, and they are not doing anything. Members of security agencies, whether military, whether police, they are appointed by the political masters. If you want them to cooperate, you give them marching orders to cooperate. Anybody who you think is not cooperating, you fire him. So I think we have spoken too much about this. Having said that, we still see some sort of improvement in that cooperation, but a lot needs to be done. I think what is the problem with our whole security sector, with due respect, I would say, is lax supervision, lax oversight, both from the executive branch and from the legislative branch and from the ministries that are in charge of these agencies. There is so much lax oversight. You are the political, in a democracy, there is no question about it. You are the CNC, you are the Minister of Defense, you are the Minister of Police, you are in charge. You are in charge. I think we should start seeing that. Now, you also spoke about what Kaduna State Governor said, that their intelligence was gotten and then the security agencies didn't act. Well, without going into the merits or demerits of that claim, what I will say, intelligence, one thing with intelligence is that it is never precise. It is never 100%. For example, no intelligence, intelligence will tell you, for example, it normally comes in a generic nature. It will say, for example, that heightened security alert is being advised because there are reports that bandits are going to attack a train. That is a general intelligence. For the operator, now, that intelligence did not say where, did not say when, did not say how. Even though there are some things you have to do, but I want people to understand that, intelligence is never black and white. It's never precise. But having said that, even if you have precise intelligence, that is one aspect of the operation. The other aspect of the operation is your capacity to respond.
I'll give you an example. If I'm staying in my house with my wife, and there is no any police station, there is no any policeman, there is no any military unit, and you phone me and say 20 armed robbers are coming, I've gotten intelligence. But do I have the capacity to act? So these are two different things. We'll work both on the intelligence and the capacity. And capacity is a function of numbers, it's a function of reaction time, because if you look at most of our security challenges, if you look at the time that our security forces react, you will see that there's a lag. Normally they arrive when the situation has, So we have to ask, what is causing that lag in reaction? Is it equipment? Is it mobility assets? Whatever it is, we have to work on it. And the security, the political masters are still maintained. From the executive branch to the legislative branch, they should stop wringing their arms. The solution is with them. They are the masters of the security agencies. They should order them, hold them responsible. There are people who give them money to operate. If you are holding the post, you are holding the power.
You're saying that everything rises and falls on leadership. You also mentioned the capacity to respond. Of course, the Minister of Transportation did say that there's an increased number of security personnel along that corridor. In fact, that some of them won't be wearing uniforms to guarantee the safety of the traveling public. He also did mention that other sensitive equipments have been deployed that he is not willing to share with the press. We hope that that will be sustained. But I'd like you to quickly speak to what the former Minister of Transportation said from your experience with the Air Force. He said that helicopters are needed to complement drones, when those drones are provided. Perhaps maybe if there was an helicopter, the crash between the train and the car wouldn't have happened in Abuja. But how sustainable is this? What do you think about it, Group Captain?
Thank you very much. Yes, many people, including the former Minister of Transport, they have, touted the idea that the train should be escorted by helicopters. But I slightly differ from such opinion. You know, when something happens, everybody will throw his solution. But you mentioned one word there, sustainability. I do not have the figures here, but when that debate was raising, I did a personal study on, for example, how much fuel would a helicopter require to follow a train from Kaduna to Abuja. How many passengers is that train making? In other words, how much is it generating per trip? To be honest, I don't have the figures here, but I did that analysis, and I find that as long as that train service is a commercial venture, and you want the average Nigerians to be able to afford a ticket to enter a train, then definitely following every train with a helicopter it sounds fantastic, it sounds good, but it's not a feasible idea. Haven't even said that. Haven't served in the Nigerian Air Force. People tend to believe that it's like if our armed forces, they have 100 or 50s of helicopters. Unfortunately, that's what it should be, but it's not the situation. I can assure you that even the Air Force cannot afford to service the train by following it every day. So in as much as it looks like a very beautiful idea, the feasibility in terms operationally, in terms of economics, really that's not right. And I have not heard any other country that uses aircraft to follow a train. So we have to look at that. I think there are other cheaper preventive, because this is the problem. We're always thinking of reaction, preventive measures. I still come back to the fact that when we brought this, railway stations back online after many years of lag, we didn't think of safety and security. We're only thinking of safety and security now after the attack by this thing. And I am saying going forward, our airports, our railways, they are still being expanded. The best way to save money and to make sure you have a holistic solution is right from the drawing design of a project. You should be thinking of what are the security risks, what are the safety risks, and then you put it. Again, you brought the issue of the lady that was unfortunately crushed by train. Again, it's still the same thing. I could not see how a helicopter, could have saved that situation. However, there are far cheaper means which we could have saved that distance. For those of us, I'm 57 years old. I can remember when I was young, and anybody my age will remember, at any railway level crossing, when a train is approaching like 5-10 minutes, there is at least one man with a red flag that will come and be blowing whistle. There used to be red lights that will be flashing. In some of the places, there are gates that will be locked, so that even if you are a madman that want to cross, the gate is locked. With due respect, I normally when this has happened, I visit areas. I didn't visit this area where this lady was crushed. But from what I saw on the video, I just saw an open place. You know, I just saw an open place. So instead of saying you need a helicopter, all you needed was a signalsman to be there 24/7, holding a red flag, you know, blowing his whistle or erecting a fence. All in all, maybe a solution of about 300, 500,000, instead of looking for an aircraft that you are going to spend millions on to be escorting an aircraft. I mean, to be escorting a train.
Here you're exploring the difference between security and safety measures and perhaps what NRC could have done better. Is this a challenge with government or with the operation within this organization?
You see, for everything, there's a way of doing things. We talk of global best practices, but we don't imbibe them. You get the point? For any project in countries that have very well-looking systems, in every project, any future project from the design stage, you are going to factor in security and safety. You don't wait to complete the building of an airport and then say that you are sending money to come and put a camera. Because when you do that, the problem is that I can tell you from my perspective of security, if you finish a house before you start thinking where I'm going to put security, you will end up breaking some walls. You will end up moving some things. In fact, you will end up placing the camera, because you are going to place the camera as the building is already there. You may even end up putting the camera where it's not going to give you a proper view. So, but talking between your security experts and your building engineers and your architect right from the drawing stage, you can tell him, this is where I want the camera. He can tell you, let this rail line not follow here because it's going through a valley which is easy to attack. He's going to tell you that when you are going to do a pedestrian crossing where railway, like where this lady got crushed, you need to put a gate, you need to put alarm system, you need to put signals. So you see, you save a lot of money, you save a lot of effort when you think of security and safety as part of a design. In fact, there's a concept called crime prevention through environmental design. And we do it in our personal design. I'm sure now if you want to go and buy a house in any town in Nigeria, not any town in Nigeria, in any town there are areas that are prone to criminals. If you have enough money, you are not going to buy a land there to say you're going to build a house, because you know that it's an area of 419 people. So that's exactly what you should do with public projects. I tend to this in the money we are going to spend now in putting security and safety in transport. I am not expecting it's going to be about 2.5 times probably it would have cost us if we had planned it initially and inserted it inside. So I just hope that we imbibe, those cultures, because it saves money, it saves lives.
Indeed, it's safer and it is more cost effective. We're going to take a short break. Group Captain, there are theories about whether or not the car was magnetized by the tracks and whether it was a suicide mission after all.